The 1990s was an era where video game developers began experimenting with all types of peripherals and add-ons. These things were made in order to enhance or improve the way gamers played their games. But of course, there were a lot of other peripherals that were just so god-awful that the developers didn't even bother releasing them. But Sega was one of the first people to try out the new virtual reality trend in the video game industry back in the 90s, even before Nintendo. And so in today's video, we'll be discussing the Sega VR. Now it's no secret that virtual reality was a thing in the mid-90s. Everything from movies to shows and even video games tried to take a shot at virtual reality, many of which failed. So of course Sega took their swing at it with Sega VR. Now the Sega VR is a virtual reality headset that was under development by Sega. Versions were planned for the arcades and consoles for the Sega Genesis and the Sega Saturn, but only the arcade version was ever released, while the home console versions were cancelled. The Sega VR was based on an IDEO virtual reality headset with LCD screens in the visor and stereo headphones. Inertial sensors in the headset allowed the system to track and react to the movements of the user's head. Now Sega, overwhelmed with funds from the success of the Sega Genesis, announced the VR in 1991. It was later seen in 1993 at the Winter CES, where Electronic Gaming Monthly noted it as an adaptation of a similar headset that Sega were already using for arcades. The magazine stated that a Genesis version was planned for release in fall of 1993 for $200 and would release with 4 launch games, including a port of Virtual Racing. Sega later announced that it is scheduled for release in spring of 1994, according to Electronic Games. Now because of development difficulties, the Sega VR headset remained only a prototype and was never released to the general public. The CEO, Tom Kalinske, stated that the system was not released due to it inducing motion sickness and severe headaches in users. It was last seen in 1993 Summer CES, where it was demonstrated by Alan Hunter. It vanished from release scheduled in 1994. Now as previously stated, 4 games were apparently developed for this system, each using 16 MB cartridges that were to be bundled with the headset. Those games were Nuclear Rush, Iron Hammer, Matrix Runner, and Outlaw Racing. Now in addition to that, Sega also announced a port of Sega AM2's hit 1992 arcade Virtual Racing. The company claimed to have terminated the project because of the virtual reality's effect was too realistic. Users might move while wearing the headset and injure themselves. The limited processing power of the system makes this claim very unlikely, although there were reports of the testers developing headaches and motion sickness as previously stated. Now Mark Pesky, who worked on the Sega VR project, says SIR International, a research institute, warned Sega of the hazards of prolonged use of this machine. Now Sega went to the other VR projects for use in arcades, and a similar add-on was reported but never seen for the Sega Saturn. The project encouraged a brief flurry of other companies to offer VR products as well. Sega's main competitor Nintendo would go on to release the very ill-fated Virtual Boy in 1995. The tabletop device also brought discomfort after extended play, as many have reported. In 1994, Sega VR technology was utilized for the Sega VR1 motion simulator arcade attraction, which was available at Sega World arcades. It was able to track head movement and featured 3D polygon graphics in stereoscopic 3D. A scaled-down version, Den-no Senkei Netmerc, was demonstrated at Japan's 1995 AOU show, and it used the Sega Model 1 arcade system board to produce the 3D graphics. However, the game's flat-shaded graphics were compared unfavorably to the Sega Model 2's textured filtered graphics. Now many are saddened that this device never came out. Many are glad due to the fact that the world just wasn't ready for this type of technology at the time. Nintendo's Virtual Boy is a perfect example of this type of failure. And that is all we know of the Sega VR. Thank you guys for watching. Check out some of our other videos if you'd like. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and let us know of any future videos you'd like to see here on the channel. And I'll see you all next time.